As much as we had to say about Tony Gibson's defense, I think they got their swagger back.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's Tuesday sponsor is FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get guaranteed $200 back in bonus bets. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to get started. Happy Tuesday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, we're going to get straight to it. We've had a lot to say about Tony Gibson's defense here in 2024. They've had some ugly performances. They got blown out against Tennessee, blown out against Clemson, but they responded with a rather strong performance against the Huskies of NIU. So I'm going to go ahead and pose the question. Do you think they were playing up against a G5 school, or do they really have their swagger back moving forward?
I mean, if you look at all year, right, I'm not going to say this has been a lights-out defense, but this has been a good defense for the most part. I think the aberration is the Clemson game. And I know some people are going to say Tennessee hung 50 points on your head. That is not, that's not good defense. They did everything except tackle well in that game. Everything except tackling, and I want to say a few scramble drills where there were busted coverages. Everything else was done very, very well in that game. That's just the reality. Grayson and I talked about the fact that there were guys in position to make the play multiple times who just need to make the play. So I think by and large, they have not been great. They have not been, I said they've been good enough. I think that we are starting to hit that stride where they're like, all right, we're good. This is who we are. We have our identity. We struggled for a bit there, and I think some changes in the lineup have also helped that out. Let's just be very honest about that. Certain players being inserted into the lineup gave a different look, gave a different feel, gave a different vibe entirely to the defense. So this could be this defense getting their swagger back. And by the way, fun fact about that meme, I think I got my swagger back meme. It was recorded in Ford Field by a high school called De La Salle in Michigan. I hate those guys. Castec played them and we whooped the wheels off them, just to let you know. But with that being said, yeah, it very much so is a situation where Tony Gibson and this defense, they very well could be, hey, this is who we are. We got that figured out, and this is who we're going to be going forward. Because, again, coming into the season, there were guys playing that you and I both, we try to be as kind as we can on air, but there were guys playing that you and I had conversations about off air where it's like, if he didn't play anymore, we wouldn't be upset. You nor I would be devastated, mortified, if you will, about that young man, deciding to, I don't know, go be a family man or something. So with that in mind, in all seriousness, we're looking at situations where lineup adjustments, as well as just finishing the damn play, is, that really seems to be the magic trick. I'm willing to say I believe that this was this defense getting their swagger back. I could be wrong, but I think it was.
Stonewalling a G5 school or returning to peak form, I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Now, we did talk last week about the way that NIU was able to go into Notre Dame and be the more physical team against the Fighting Irish. Not quite an easy thing to do. They were a very physical team this Saturday against NC State. However, NC State's defense took to the challenge and decided that they were going to be much more physical on defense. And you look at those disappointing performances early in the year to, I'm sure, be humbled in practice by your defensive coordinator all week and then come out and record, I think it was 12 TFLs. You had 4 total turnovers, 2 fumbles, 2 picks. You also had 4 sacks. That felt like an NC State defense for really the first time this season. And unfortunately, that's kind of been a recurring theme in years past. Right around this time of the year is where the defense really gets rolling. So I think that there is something to this. I think there probably is a real element of starting to build momentum and stack little wins that turn into bigger wins on the field for this defense. I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Yes, it was a G5. Yes, it's Northern Illinois. They're not, great at passing the ball. They have a very strong run game, and there's something to be said for that. Overall, just a very great performance by your defense. We talked about the leadership The guys who needed to step up, they stepped up and then some. So we're starting to feel a lot better about this defense. It's amazing what 1 week can do in terms of your overall outlook, but defense as a whole, again, talked about Saturday, talked about it again right now. You have to find a way to replicate this type of effort. Wake Forest offense this coming weekend, they're good, but it's nothing special. It will probably be a step above what Northern Illinois gave you, but with a similar intensity on defense, you should be able to compete.
Yeah, the Wake Forest offense, we know about it, right? That very long and slow mesh that they hold for about a whole business day, and you'll get free shipping you'll get free shipping through Amazon by the time you mess around and wait on that mesh to finish. But they can air it out. They can air it out. Brockenmeyer has shown he will let that thing fly, and they've got guys that'll go up and get it in Moran and company. And so, you have to be ready for a more high octane offense, for a better passing offense than what you just saw. But at the end of the day, like Grayson and I talked about, lead with effort and everything else will flow from there. Again, when you look at Wake Forest, NC State, you have the better players. Lead with effort and everything else will take care of itself. I don't see a world where I can say, hey, NC State gave the better effort. They showed up. We gave everything we had on that field. Wake Forest was just a little bit better on this day. I don't see a world where that happens. Now, I do see a world where it's like, oh, we got lazy. Oh, we were smelling ourselves from that NIU win, and all of a sudden we couldn't check a glance route when in the RPO game, that's the thing. That's the route that they're going to go to a lot. So, this is a situation where I would hope that this is the defense getting their swagger back. I would hope to be right about that. I would hope that the defense shows up and proves like, hey, we're amazing. We're phenomenal. This is who we are going forward. Because despite all the weapons picked up in the offseason, offensively, we're just not there. We're not there right now. And I'd hate to keep being a guy of next year because, many people call NC State a team of next year, but you're kind of hoping that CJ Bailey and the crew get it together this year. But even if they don't, you're like, hey, next year you've got all these guys getting a year older, and you'll most likely see much better results then.
You mentioned some of the newer faces on defense that we saw. I want to talk a little bit more about that in a couple minutes, but one of the recurring faces was DK Kaufman. Now, he was listed as ACC Defensive Back of the Week, another guy that's really stepping up his level of play and making an impact seemingly in every single game. This was a guy that forced a fumble and returned that very same fumble. He had a sack as well. Even on kick return, he had a very nice kick return that set us up with some good field position there. I believe that was in the first half. Just a guy that's doing his absolute best to ignite sparks underneath of this team. And that's something you have to have when a team is struggling, yes, but also at this part of the year. This is one of the most crucial parts of the year that you have to keep that momentum rolling. So good on DK Kaufman. Congratulations, Defensive Back of the Week in the ACC. I want to see him repeat. Go do it again against Wake Forest. We need more guys to step up to this level of play. If the offense is going to struggle as much as it has, maybe at that point it is what it is. The defense is going to have to step it up an even higher notch of what we saw on Saturday. They're going to have to keep outdoing themselves to keep us afloat. So is the defense finding their swagger? I think they just might be. Another test coming up on this coming Saturday. Coming up next, we're getting into a whole lot of nothing or a whole lot of something after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor of the day is Roy, and it's time to highlight our Roy Player of the Week. Roy is a new platform that lets fans make contributions directly to any of their favorite athletes. Download Roy for iOS or Android and enter referral code LOCKEDON. You'll be automatically entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. No purchase necessary and void where prohibited. This week, we selected Davin Van as our Roy Player of the Week. If you were impressed as we were with Davin's performance on Saturday, you can show him some love too. Just hop on Roy and throw him a few bucks. If everyone pitches in $10, it adds up fast for Davin Van. Now you have the chance to show your appreciation for Davin and his standout performance this week, as well as what he brings to your program. Get off the sidelines and get into the NIL game with Roy. Middle portion of our Tuesday show. Now time for a whole lot of nothing, a whole lot of something. 3 topics. We'll tell you exactly where we stand on them. First one here, and to be honest, we already know the answer, but it was so ridiculous, I feel the need to say it again. 176 total yards of offense against Northern Illinois. Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
The yardage is a whole lot of nothing. The offense's body language during the game is what's a whole lot of something.
Interesting.
There's something in the mist. And a lot of people are talking about the KC touchdown as being like the defining moment of like there's something wrong. No. I think the first touchdown drive, you saw that the offense looked excited and inspired, and everybody looked geeked up. Something happened. Something changed to where that enthusiasm just left. And it's like, what happened to make things go in that way? What happened? I'm not so worried about the yards. It's like, yes, a little bit. Don't get me wrong. 41 second half yards, ew, gross. Please do better. But there is something about that body language that's more concerning to me than a lack of yardage.
Yeah, no, you beat me to it. And for that reason, it's a whole lot of something because the offense as a whole, it has stunk. And when you see some of that body language, and yes, we're very aware of the KC touchdown where he looked very unenthused. To some certain degree, can you blame him? I mean, if I were KC, I probably would have reacted the exact same way. It's frustrating to be in an offense that's struggling so much every single week. But that one play is not indicative of the rest of the body language that we've seen as well. It hasn't been just KC. It certainly hasn't been CJ Bailey because he's been very upbeat, but it hasn't been any one person on the offense. It's been the offense as a whole. You can attribute that to long runs being consistently called back due to penalty. You can be attributing that to a missed block, and that blows up the whole play. Incomplete passes, kind of very conservative play calling. As a whole, the offense is not inspiring a whole lot of confidence. And when you're struggling that much, that heavily against a G5 school, yeah, it's going to cause a lot of frustration. So don't make this something bigger than it needs to be. I don't think it's indicative of how KC's feeling about the program or next year. It's not that. It's just it's so frustrating every week when you know you have the tools to be explosive, but you're not getting it every single week. That's where that frustration, we believe, comes from. So it's a whole lot of nothing in terms of what they actually did. 176 is crazy. It's still crazy here on Tuesday, but it's a whole lot of something because the offense as a whole, it smells right now. There's something fishy going on, and it needs to be figured out. Second one here, Davin Vann. It looks like he's getting better and better and better as the season goes on. Arguably, just had his best game of the season, 10 tackles, a sack, 3.5 TFLs, and 2 forced fumbles. Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
I would say a whole lot of something because Davin Vann is playing a style of football that is, he's reached the level. And if you're a defensive player, you know what it feels like to reach that level to where offenses have to account for you at a high, like they have to know where's that guy. He has reached that level because he's tore it up every single game. Every single game. I would probably say his worst game of the year may have been his first. That may have been the only game where I don't have multiple plays where I can like think back and say Davin Vann did that virtually by himself, or he caused that amazing outcome to happen. I know for a fact the Tennessee game, the pick six, Davin Vann was getting back there and was the one that hit Nico's arm to make that ball kind of flutter and float. You look at game 3 after that game, Louisiana Tech. The pick six by DK Kaufman was forced by who? None other than Davin Vann. That was our locked on look of the week that week. And then you go forward from the Louisiana Tech game to Clemson. Don't get me wrong, we did not have a good game defensively. I thought Davin Vann was pretty effective. All in all, even in that game, he's still effective, even while the defense by and large is getting donkey kicked. He still found a way to make him some plays. And in this last game, he was the guy. He was all over the place. Even plays that he won't get credit for. For example, there was an outside zone that came his way. He was in the B gap, and he compressed the C gap with the tackle's body. He said, hey, listen, I may not get credit for this tackle, but you're not going to get credit for yardage in that C gap. Please and thank you. Come on with me, tackle. We're going to be right here. This is where we're playing it. whole lot of something, man. He is special. He is phenomenal. I run out of adjectives talking about this young man's just outlandishly good play, and it's really been a joy to watch.
Whole lot of something for me, because if you are NC State, this is the name that you want to be firing on all cylinders on your defense. This is your captain. This is your senior leader. This is the best defensive player you have, probably in the whole defense, if we're being honest, but especially on that defensive line. This is the guy. For him to have a marginally better performance each and every week, that is exactly the direction you need to be trending in. He took over this game against Northern Illinois. It was a physical football game, and Davin Vann was one of the most physical players on the field. That is all systems go. That tracks exactly how it needs to. His leadership, we're going to talk even more about his leadership in just a couple minutes with all the Hurricane efforts. That is the guy that is doing all the right things for NC State football right now. Definitely a whole lot of something. Last one here. The new defensive faces that we saw on Saturday seemingly all had excellent games. KJ Martin, T-Mac Cooley, Isaiah Shirley, and Devon Marshall especially excellent with increased snap counts against Northern Illinois Huskies. Whole lot of nothing, whole lot of something.
Whole lot of something. And I also want to throw Kamal Bonner in there because I know he played a lot as well. Whole lot of something, because sometimes, people talk about bringing in a quarterback and that being the shot to the arm. Sometimes just shaking up that starting group. Sometimes letting guys know, hey, your seat is getting a little warm there, ain't it? Hey, matter of fact, you two switch seats. You sit in the front seat. You get in the second seat. You're with the starters now. Sometimes that is the greatest motivator there is, and it pushes everybody up a level because people, complacency breeds mediocrity.
Yes.
And if you believe you're entitled to that front seat, if you believe, at least this is how it was back when I played, it was organized by you sat in the seat based on where you were in the depth chart. So the starters were in the first seat, backups in the second seat, reserves, third seat, and beyond. Okay. If you know I have got to earn this seat week in, week out, it's a very different feel from, this is my seat. What about it? You got to know, hey, I got to earn this thing every single time. I've got to show up every single time to get this, which, again, this defense, you talk about what they did on the field. You talk about what the new look guys did on the field. They played phenomenally. And most of those guys who came in and played phenomenally were playing in place of mainstays, in place of guys who were upperclassmen, juniors, seniors, been in the program for some time. So it is definitely a whole lot of something in my book.
Yeah, you about covered all the bases there. It's a whole lot of something. And those 4 or 5 guys' names that we listed there filled out the stat sheet. And every time I looked up on defense, it felt like Cooley was in the mix, or Martin was in the mix, or Devon Marshall's running that route for the receiver and picks him off. All coming in very key points of that game. So like Kenton was talking about, this team needed a little bit of a reshuffling of the deck. In this case, it was the defense, and you got instant results. That should be a very positive sign for Tony Gibson, this defense moving forward. Couple guys moving around, shifting some rotations, and you're getting much better results almost instantly. Love to see that on Saturday. Going to love it even more if we see it again this coming Saturday. So a whole lot of something for me. And then coming up next, we're going to talk about the hurricane relief efforts. An unimaginable tragedy happened in the western part of North Carolina. It's seemingly getting worse and worse and worse, but the Wolfpack are stepping up and leading the charge of relief. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second sponsor of the day is FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the very same page you're placing all of your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. If you're taking NC State to cover the spread this weekend against Wake Forest, waste no more time. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to get started. Last couple of minutes here of our Tuesday show. Very important non-football talk. There was a disastrous hurricane that occurred in the western part of North Carolina this past weekend. Crazy. Some of the images and videos that are still coming out, and it seemingly gets worse every single day. A completely unimaginable tragedy for the western part of our state. Areas like Boone and Asheville, some places like Blowing Rock, Black Mountain, completely wiped off of the map. And that is utterly devastating to countless families, tons of people in such a beautiful part of our state. I cannot fathom the amount of terror that they witnessed over this weekend. It's nice to witness football because a lot of times it takes your mind off of stuff like that. And once that comes and goes, you come to grips with how terrible of a weekend that so many people had. And that's why we wanted to talk about this here on Tuesday. Davin Vann, an incredible leader on the field, an incredible leader off the field. And he is partnering, I believe, with his own mother to deliver tons of supplies to the people that are in need up there in the Asheville area. He has organized drop-off times at the indoor football facility right next to Carter Finley. They had them on Monday. They will also have them on Tuesday and Wednesday between the hours of noon and 8 p.m. Lists of supplies. I'm taking this right off of NC State's football account. Cases of water, any type of electrolyte drinks that are pre-mixed or ready to use, baby formula, baby wipes, hygiene products like toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorant, hand sanitizer, feminine products, diapers, shampoo, body wash, flashlights, lanterns, batteries, blankets, sleeping bags, any type of items that people are in need of right now. If you are able to donate, highly, highly, highly encourage you to do so. There are so many people that are in need, in dangerous situations. It very quickly all comes into perspective. This could be us in Raleigh. This could be you in Charlotte. This could be you on the eastern part of North Carolina if you live at the beach. This could be you in Columbia, South Carolina. This could be you. Think about how you would be devastated in a situation like this. We need to step up as a pack, as one pack, and help out as much as we possibly can.
There are Grayson and I enjoy what we do. We really do. We love what we do. It's exciting to talk about sports because, again, like Grayson talked about, life is life, right? And life is hard. It rains on the just and unjust alike, and that's not a pun in this situation. It quite literally, the flooding was described as biblical, right? Like this is a very serious thing, and so in any moment, any time where we can help our fellow man, woman, child, person out, we ought to. And this is a call from us to not only give to Davin Vann's, drop-off location and charities, but anything else that you can do, that you can find in your heart to give, please do. Please do. This is a situation that is extremely serious, right? All roads into Asheville flooded out. Like Grayson said, cities wiped off the map virtually. This is very serious, right? And even out to Tennessee, where, Lord knows the folks on Locked on Wolfpack have no reason to be fans of Tennessee. And yet, this is beyond football. This is beyond trolling. This is beyond any of that. People need help. So let's show up and let's show Western Carolina. Let's show Eastern Tennessee. Let's show everybody who needs help who Wolfpack Nation really is.
And man, talking about Tennessee, I lived in Eastern Tennessee. I lived 2 years of my life in Pigeon Forge. Now, that's not exactly the area that was most devastated, but it's not far off. I have friends that have lived in Asheville. I've spent a lot of time up there in the mountains, and I cannot fathom what it currently looks like based on the beautiful scenery that I am accustomed to. And I feel so heartbroken for so many families that are going through it right now. And I hope that we do feel fortunate enough to give as much help as we possibly can. And there's been several people offering up their Venmo accounts. If you want to donate to those, I've already retweeted several of them on our Locked on Wolfpack Twitter page. Find a way to help. Every single person should help if they can. It is that important. There are so many people that live in the western part of the state that are such great people, such hardworking, down-to-earth people, and they need our help right now. If you are able to, please, we encourage you, please find a way to help. Whether that is on Venmo or Davin Vann's movement, dropping off any supplies that you can at the indoor practice facility. Again, Tuesday and Wednesday between the hours of noon and 8 p.m. Highly, highly encourage you to do so. If you want to find other ways to help, just get on Twitter. They're all over the place. People trying to raise money or raise supplies or scheduling drop-offs and pickup. If you want to find some way to help, I promise you, if you jump on there, you will find someone that you can help, because Lord knows there's so many people that need it right now.
Yeah, us two are not rich guys by any means of the imagination and whatnot. But we also will be contributing personally. So we hope that, we follow our lead or set an example beyond us and in generosity. Because again, this is one of those moments where we can't do enough. How do you replace some of what these folks, these great folks in Western North Carolina lost? The answer is you don't, and you can't. But you give what you can, and we go from there.
Very somber end to our Tuesday show, but hey, there's things in life that are much, much bigger than sports. This is one of those. Find a way to help. Get involved any way you can. Kent and I are very much doing the same. That'll do it for us here on Tuesday. Be sure to hit that like button. Drop all of your comments in the comment box. If you think NC State's defense is returning to their normal swagger, let us know. Let us know about the ineptitude of the offense. Any other pieces of advice or information you want to give us in the comments, put those down there as well. And again, if you have a way that you are currently planning on helping and you want to share that in the comments, certainly feel free to do so as well. Mash that subscribe button if you have not already. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Wednesday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.